vacation?
Yes.
It's great to see so many people here. I am Marianne Naples, the publisher of Publishers Marketplace. I think you're just looking at the slide right now, but I am thrilled to be here with these incredible authors and editors and share the news of their upcoming books. And I think you will agree that the buzz is real. I also want to tell you very briefly about what we are doing to create even more buzz. So first, as you've already seen, we have this beautiful new BuzzBooks official seal. So look for that to find some buzz on social media and on the jackets you see and everywhere. Second, we have, of course, our sampler. I'm holding it up here so you can visualize reading it on your e-reader of choice. Look for that to get to read all 18 of the excerpts of the BuzzBooks official romance titles. Next, also exciting, we have a fresh new website and a newsletter coming soon. So I hope you all visit our new website. It's really fabulous. You can see all the books there, and in our future editions, you can see those there as well. The buzz.publishersmarketplace.com. It's also on the screen, and you can also see our events there and subscribe to our newsletter. Next, we are going to be sharing the buzz. So our edition already has so many 5-star reviews on NetGalley. We're seeing a lot of call outs about the new heat scale, the listing of all the types of romances and more. So it truly, and I was reading one on the way home that was saying that it was the best way to find out about new romances. And it just really is, because so many of the reviews also talk about the discovery that comes when you are reading these samples. Next, ta-da. Here are each of the selections in this year's Buzz Romance edition. And I think you'll agree that this is a pretty gorgeous array of jackets. So all of these titles are BuzzBooks officials. So please help us share the buzz when you love one of these. And you will see us doing this as well with a BuzzBooks official day coming soon. And we hope you'll join us and help support these great authors and books. And now, our panel. So here are the books, authors, and editors we are featuring today, and I'm excited to get started. I also wanted to say, please stay until the end, mainly because you will not want to miss any of these conversations, but also because you'll have a chance to win a set of advanced readers copies of one of each of these titles. And also thank you to the publishers for donating them. We are going to post the BuzzBooks download link in the chat throughout the evening, along with pre-order links to the panelist books if they are available already. So first, we are going to start with Jane Costello, who is joining us. Well, I'll let her say, but her dedication is to parent. Jane, we've got an incredible tennis theme on this panel also, and starting with 40 Love and continuing later on, but this one with a reunion from the past that's really wonderful. Jane is the author of 16 novels, 5 of which were written under the name Catherine Isaac. Her books have sold over 1 million copies in the UK, which is incredible, and have been translated into 26 languages. And she is joined by her editor, Corey Hunter, who is a senior editor at Zibby Publishing. So I'm going to add, so they are here already. I'm going to turn myself off, and you can enjoy this conversation.
Hi.
Hi there. Hi.
Hi. Yeah. It's great to be here. I just want to say thank you to BuzzBooks for having us on this panel. I am
Absolutely.
really excited to talk about this very fun, sexy book. Just a little intro. 40 Love is the second book that we published with Jane, and I just have to say that she is an absolute dream to work with. This novel is another midlife rom-com. The first one just had such an amazing response from readers, women in their 40s who wrote online in their reviews. I finally feel seen. Finally, a book for us. I'm giving it to my mother, my sister, my best friend. And I bring that up because I think it's exactly that kind of response that speaks to what I love most about Jane's writing. which is, aside from her terrific sense of humor, she writes real, complex women that I see myself in, and still somehow manages to deliver a story that is 100% entertainment. So I love this book. I can pinpoint exactly the place on the page where I personally fell for each of Jane's main characters. And I think that's just experiencing that sensation is one of just the pure joys of reading and working in the romantic genre. Jane, without any spoilers, would you just briefly tell everybody what the book is about in your own words?
Absolutely. So, yeah, it's about a 40-something single mom called Jules who lives next door to a tennis club, but has absolutely no intention of playing because she was put off playing sport for life when she was a teenager, as I think a lot of us were. And that's doubly the case when an old crush from her school days, Dr. Sam Delaney, is back in their hometown almost 3 decades after leaving. And he is displaying this killer forehand in direct view of her bedroom window. But when Jules's 19-year-old daughter goes backpacking around Europe, she is overcome with anxiety and in desperate need of some sort of distraction. So she rashly agrees to join an amateur women's tennis team who themselves are at the bottom of every league going. They're on the verge of total collapse. They're desperate for players. So the fact that she can't really play doesn't seem to matter. It's a book about tennis, obviously, but at its heart, if you're not into tennis at all, it doesn't matter because at its heart, it's a love story. It's also a book about sisterhood, friendship, finding unexpected sources of joy in midlife, and really just sort of celebrating a stunning second act.
Great. That's a lovely summary. Even if you're not into tennis, you can love this book, but I was inspired to pick up a racket after reading this. So I do want to talk a little bit more about the tennis. What was it that sparked the idea to bring tennis and romance together?
Well, I had never played tennis myself at all until about 5 years ago. And I mean, this is where the sort of similarities between myself and Jules, the main character, start and finish. But I moved into a house that was very close to a tennis court, and I'd walk past it and think, I'm going to give that a go one day. It was one of those things. Of course, my kids were getting a bit older now, and I went along to one of these lessons called Rusty Rackets. And just basically what started as something to do on a Sunday afternoon became an absolute obsession. I persuaded all of my friends to join. I took so many lessons and basically ended up joining a team myself. I now play competitively for their women's B team. We go to Spain every year to train. And it's just being part of a team at this age. I've not been part of a team since I was 14 years old. And it is absolutely joyous. It really is. It's just become one of the great joys of my life. So I just wanted the book to really sort of reflect my passion, not just for the sport, but just, being the friendships that are forged and just the immense fun that we have, really. And hopefully every page of the book sort of reflects that.
Can you give like, say you live around the corner from a tennis club yourself, and the character Jules lives across the street from one in the book. And you've told me a story that I would love for you to share here about the 90-year-old woman who is on the Rescue Rackets team that you joined. The layers of the female friendship is such like a lovely layer of the storytelling here.
Yeah, it was, well, one of the things that I found so inspiring. It wasn't just that it was the chance to play. We don't play as adults in the same way that we did when we were kids, and this became this chance to play. And I just loved it for that reason. But one of the other things that I just adored from the very beginning was that there were women in this group playing. I mean, there's a woman who played in competitive tennis for our team who is 81 years old. And she runs across this court like a gazelle. She is amazing. I don't know. It's just, but even sort of some of the women who aren't quite as, sporty as she is, they've got these amazing racket skills. And I think it was just being surrounded by really inspiring women of all ages. There are teenagers in the team, there are 80 something year olds in the team. There's a lot of us, in our in midlife. And yeah, it's just, and like I say, I just find the whole thing absolutely joyous. I really do.
Yeah, the female friendships in this book are really a bonus, I think.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the romance. Let's
Okay.
not forget the romance. I
No,
think this is
absolutely.
it's your steamiest book yet, I think. And there are just some incredible, I think, filmic, just beautiful romantic sequences to enjoy. The tennis retreat in Spain, for instance, that's not giving anything away. And I think for me, it's just there's something great about seeing the sexiness of a woman in her 40s on the page as well. What is it meaningful to you to write rom-com for women in midlife? And or is there anything particularly challenging or different about that compared to your other books?
Well, I mean, I wrote rom-coms for years, in the sort of traditional definition of a rom-com, which is girl meets boy, fall in love for the first time, in various amusing and entertaining ways. And then I branched out and wrote a different type of book as under the pseudonym Catherine Isaac, and they were sort of more emotional love stories. But it was when I got to my late 40s. I mean, I love romantic comedy as a genre. I absolutely love it. I love the romance. I love any book that can make me laugh out loud. I am just sold completely. So I've always loved writing it. And I got to my late 40s and I just couldn't find exactly the book I wanted to read. I couldn't find a lot of it with, where they were where the main protagonist was my age. So I decided, right, I've got to write this. And actually, far from being challenging, I mean, obviously every book is challenging in its own way to write, but I just loved it. I just loved writing these books from the moment, from the word go. And I don't think I can say that about every book I've ever written. I've written some books that have been incredibly challenging. But this is just so, I think because there's just so much material when you reach this age. And it's because it's not, you don't often, certainly not enough anyway. I don't think we see women in midlife portrayed as sexy and, in that romantic lead. And so I just loved it. I just loved being able to write into that, into that mold, really.
It's so great to read. I mean, life is not over in you're in your 40s, right?
Really?
So it's, I think, fantastic to see a character discovering herself anew, starting a new chapter. It's not all over, and enjoying herself romantically too. All right, I think we have time for just a quick question. Every book is so different. I know what I got from reading this book and what I will carry with me, but I always think it's interesting to hear from the writer what you were hoping that your readers would take away from this one.
Oh, well, the short answer is pure entertainment. I want readers to laugh in recognition and turn the last page feeling uplifted. All those, when I was reading the chat before, all those words, readers want butterflies and, you want a reader to fall in love with your main character and all those feels. That's what I really, really hope for. But specifically because this is a book with a protagonist who is in midlife, this can be a sort of challenging time for many of us. We've got so many responsibilities, there's a sandwich generation, there's menopause coming up, but it's also a time of great joy and with so much to celebrate. And I just really wanted to reflect that. But yeah, pure entertainment and butterflies. Yeah, somebody said butterflies. I couldn't hope for more than that.
I think you delivered. Thank you, Jane. Thanks for having us.
I'm going to jump in. That was fantastic, and I can testify that you have achieved all of that. And book is really wonderful and inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. And now we are going to move on to KM Moronova, Leave Me Behind. Oh, am I on there still? Yes. Okay. So here is this beautiful galley that I have a copy of. It's gorgeous. I love the reading line, the only good riot soldier is a dead one. So that sets you up very nicely. And I didn't get to say this earlier, but I love playlist inside. It's amazing. So KM Moronova is a dark fantasy and romance author whose favorite characters are the misunderstood villains. And Christa Desir is the VP and editorial director for Bloom Books and Source Books Romance. So I'm going to ask them to, oh, I see Christa. Are we all on? And I'm going to turn my camera off and my audio and leave you to it.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you being here with me and Kiana today, and for everyone else who's here. And thank you, Publishers Marketplace, for acknowledging how amazing this book is. I absolutely love it, and I'm glad so many people it has resonated with so many people. One of the things I love about romance as a genre is how it brings so many people who are not readers into reading. And it's such a motto for us in a lot of ways, is to tap into the people who aren't readers and make them fall in love. And this book delivers that in a huge way. It's very different from Jane's book in that this skews a little darker. So Kiana, when you originally described the idea for this, you told me that you were watching your husband play Call of Duty and you thought, what if this, but also with sex?
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit more how that idea germinated from there, and kind of describe a little bit Leave Me Behind and how it blossomed from that?
Yeah, definitely. So Leave Me Behind, like you said, I was watching my husband play Call of Duty, and I was just sitting there and I was like, the squads, because it always puts you on a squad. And I was like, that would be so fun to have a unit like that in a book. And it started with like, I at first went to look for a book like that and I couldn't find one. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm going to write it. And from there, it kind of like, I didn't have like a direction. I was like, I'm just going to put this girl on a squad. It's going to be enemies to lovers. I'm going to have a lot of tension and, we'll go from there. And I watch a lot of James Bond. And so it really, I don't like, like too much of like war stuff. So I was like, I want special ops, small missions where the teams have to be really like specialized. And from there, it just went crazy. And it was so much fun to write. But basically, Nell, aka Bunny, she gets put on a new squad because her old squad gets terminated. And so on her new squad, she meets two people on a plane. And she doesn't know who they are until she gets to a nightclub. And she's like, well, I'm just gonna have a one night stand. I'm going on to a new squad. It's gonna be, one night of fun. And it ends up she meets the one military guy that she feared most meeting, and it's Bones. Everyone's heard of him in the Dark Forces, and she meets him and she's like, oh my gosh, she just had a one night stand with the one guy she didn't want to like meet. And he's her direct partner. And so, yeah, it really went from there. But I loved having the small missions and just a girl being in the military setting instead of typical military romance where she's at home reading his letters. There's nothing wrong with that. But, I was like, I want action. I want her to be in the fun.
Yes. But Bunny is no damsel in distress. That is for sure. One of the interesting aspects of this story is like everyone is sort of low-key a criminal, but and sort of put in this world. And the two of them, Bunny and Bones, both carry a lot of trauma and baggage. And can you talk to us a little bit about what it was like trying to kind of build their chemistry and all the push-pull, because it truly is enemies to lovers, but taking that angle and like actually like creating a love story out of that?
Yeah. So For me, like I find it easy to write characters with trauma because I feel like a lot of people, and throughout most of my books, a lot of my characters have a lot of emotional trauma. And I really want my characters to be relatable. That's the first thing I always think about when I write. And for Nell, I was like, I want her to experience losing everyone. And then Bradshaw, he lost only one. And that's how the story kind of starts is someone who's lost everyone and someone who lost the one who was very special. And it's just, it adds so much tension. And obviously, my stories have a lot of mystery in them as well. And so that kind of adds to it as well. But
Yeah, it's very raw and like pretty
yeah.
in that way, but it's also like it's kind of you're very careful about how you sort of weave what starts to be like anger and trauma and you start building it into sort of like a true like not even necessarily a trauma bond, but amongst this found family. And one of the interesting aspects about your squads is like you kind of create this found family part to it. Were there, as you were building this out, this idea out, can you talk to us about like some of the other characters, the other people in there that you were like, oh, this is really fun? Because I've got this primary romance, but I've also got all the side characters and, like military guys, like there's a lot happening there.
Yeah. So for the found family part, like it was really fun to have them go on the training mission at first, to see if they're a good fit. And through my research, I actually found that like that's like a thing that they actually do for special ops. Like they have, beginning training missions for months to see if they're all going to work together. And so, putting them all together and having them go through these trials of like they have to like work together even though they don't like each other. They have to become friends. That part was really fun for me to write. And there were some characters that like really stood out more than others. Aaron, I wasn't expecting to like Aaron as much, the twin, but he like really started to grow on me writing it and everything. And the side characters, so like, they're just together the whole time. And yeah.
Yeah. It's talking to us a little bit about your research process and what you did when you started kind of looking into, obviously it went beyond watching your husband play Call of Duty. And how did you kind of figure out like basically the rules of the military? You don't have a military background, do you?
No, I do not. My husband, so he plays Call of Duty. That honestly, I learned a lot from that, and a lot of it is pretty on point. Especially when it comes to like when you hear what they say on the radios and stuff like that. We watched a lot of movies, and that really helped. But I did a lot of research, and it is so complicated. There's a lot of very like complex structure, obviously to military and stuff. But there's a lot of like lingo that is very complex as well. I think the hardest part was I had to like learn how to spell lieutenant over and over and over, and that is the hardest word to spell. It's so hard, but like, learning like who's above who, captain, lieutenant, sergeant, that was like really, I had to have a graph so I can keep track of it. But there was a lot of really good information that I found. And there's a lot of websites too that really help and they all have graphs. So it was really interesting to learn.
Yeah. One of the very cool and very unique things, I noticed a lot of people were talking about your cover, and the cover for this book. So I don't know if you all know, but Kiana actually was the artist for the cover. She is sort of one of one on this. She does all the internal art and also she did the cover, the art on the cover. And she does this as like kind of part of her process, which is really amazing. She's got these just beautiful, like there's just an abundance of art. It was like such a treasure trove for our whole creative team to be able to go through that. Can you talk about how illustration sort of works with your writing and how you use that process and how you pull that out?
Yes, so art is such an important part of my process. And usually I will actually draw out my characters before I even start writing. And the way that like it works for me is I'm like, who is this character? Like, what do they look like? Do they have any scars? For me, it's hard to like just kind of like populate it into my head. So I like to draw them, and then I'll draw a scar, draw, tattoos and stuff. I'm like, that would be great. And so then I hop into writing, and then I'll write, and then to keep myself out of like writer's block, I will write for like an hour, and then I'll go draw for an hour. And they both inspire each other. So then I can really like, bounce back and forth. And the art will inspire scenes, or the writing will inspire art scenes. And it's so much fun. And I get a lot out of it. And when I first started writing, I didn't think anyone was going to like my art. So I never like posted or anything. And then I did once, and I was going to delete it. And everyone was like, what is this? You can draw? And, so it really like, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can do this. And yeah, but it's a huge part of the writing process for me. I don't think I could write if I couldn't draw my characters out.
We love it. We love it. And it's such a benefit. So when you all get the book, you'll see like there's just beautiful interiors, of each of the characters, everything she's done. It's really very cool. So thank you, Kiana. I appreciate it.
Thank you both. And I'm seeing so much excitement in the chat, people loving the covers. Your cover, the cover, 40 Love as well. I meant to say that. And this was a great discussion. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Thank
now
you.
we are going to turn to A Vow and Vengeance, another beautiful galley, Jaclyn Rodriguez. She will be joining us now. This is a debut and looks like the start of a new series. It's got a really intriguing tarot theme, which I love, and it's quite addictive. Jaclyn Rodriguez is a biracial author of Puerto Rican heritage and has been madly in love with fantasy since before she could walk, forever drawn to magic and the impossible, strong romantic subplots. The more complicated, the better. Sounds great. Nicole Otto is a senior editor acquiring romance for Slowburn and developing original content for Zando projects. And I see Nicole on screen. I don't know if I can see everyone. Is Jaclyn on screen? I'm going to turn myself off to get started. Thank you.
Hi, Jaclyn. Hi, Nicole. Hi. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to listen and hear all about our books today. I'm so excited to talk with Jaclyn about A Vow of Vengeance. It's actually my first acquisition when I joined Zando. I get a ton of romantasy in my inbox, but this one just hooked me immediately. There is something about your writing style that you just cannot look away from it. You can't put it down, even if you have work to do. And it was just everything I was looking for as a reader in this space. For everyone's context, A Vow and Vengeance is very sexy. It's an action-packed romantasy that takes place at a cutthroat academy for tarot magic. So, Jaclyn, my first question for you is about our amazing main characters, Rune and Draven. Rune starts the book doing what no one in her world wants to do, which is venturing into the scary and unknown immortal lands to find her stolen family. And there she meets Prince Draven, who is an immortal druid, on a quest for power. So how did you come up with these two? What drew you to them?
So Rune's a character that I've wanted to write forever. She's Latina like me. She's bisexual like me. We have a lot of similarities, which also felt both very easy and very vulnerable to write someone that's a bit like you. But she's also very rebellious, kind of a spitfire, confident she's right, even when she's not, and strong-willed. And I just wanted a character that was going to challenge the narrative and ask questions that the readers were going to want answered when those questions arose. And I think I just love representing complex, angry women who persist regardless of obstacles. And she's just been my favorite hero to write. And for Draven, the prince wasn't originally in my first draft. Initially, the story was going to be this modern day romantasy, and it just wasn't working. So I rebooted it as a high fantasy because I love high fantasy. And then I could have all these different cultures and magic systems and princes and courtiers and all the fun kind of fantasy stuff. And I knew I wanted this love interest that was morally dark gray and rebellious and dynamic on the page. And when I was writing this election scene, I just knew I needed to have somebody that was going to do the choosing. And then like Draven was born. And once he came onto the page with his banter with Rune, it just kind of shifted everything and made him the very clear love interest. And he's a great supportive love interest. It's very encouraging of our fiery, unapologetically ambitious FMC. So
I love that. It's like when you told me that, I was shocked. It was like he demanded to be in this world and in this story. You actually introduced me to my new favorite trope with these two fake fated mates. The very clever take on the fated mate trope in romantasy and the fake dating trope, often in contemporary. These two, they make a deal to pretend that they're destined to each other to achieve their own ends. So, can you speak a little bit about tropes in romance? How did you come up with this trope? What were some of your favorite tropes to include?
So yeah, I absolutely love the fake dating and I love fated mates too. So I kind of tried to figure out, is there a way to do fake dating but make it fantasy? And then also, the fated mates thing is so interesting because Rune's not a character that anyone's going to be able to tell who to love, especially if it's coming from some immortal god or predetermined destiny. So I wanted to play with this like established role of fated mates or soulmates if you don't read fantasy and ask myself, could they get away with faking it? Which then allowed me to incorporate some more fun tropes like only one bed, which suddenly was justified because these characters need to smell like each other because these druids have heightened senses.
Yeah.
So I just loved exploring the choices versus destiny. What does it mean to choose someone when your soulmate does exist? And I was just excited to add all my favorite romantic tropes. Forced proximity, since the characters are the only two ones chosen by the world card in Century. So they're the only two people placed in their dorm or hearth. And then I got to include Toucher and Die and my absolute favorite, enemies to lovers. So
Yeah. And they do not like each other when they first meet. That is certainly true. Yeah, I love, we've spoken a lot about this, but the idea of love being a choice, most of all, and how important a message that is, especially in like new adult readership, which Avowed Vengeance definitely falls in. So in the book, let's get to the dark academia, because this was so much fun to read and edit. So Rune attends the Forge. This is an academy for the druids' tarot magic. How did you come up with this magic system? What inspired it?
So I think I've always been drawn to tarot cards, and I feel like a lot of people that have ever had like any kind of witchy interests are at some point drawn to tarot cards. I was definitely introduced to them, I think, for the first time in the cult film The Craft, which is like a millennium staple that everyone loves, right? And I also wanted a magic system that people could like that exists in our world. So it's something that people could feel like they're really learning with the characters. And they've been so universal and they're in every culture. And I just remember asking my mom, of all people, I was just kind of like, hey, Mom, do you have a set of tarot cards? And she absolutely did. She whipped out this pack that I still have that's like from the 70s. And, she even had like just like a set on her. And she's not ever been like a really, witchy person or anything, but she had one too. And yeah, the more I learned about them, the more I was like, oh, I can break these down into 22 arcana powers. And depending on which card chooses you is what power you get. And that creates this fun sense of like, what power would you want? What would you want to do with your power? Which is like for readers to talk about in their communities. And I was just able to incorporate different storytelling elements too of tarot cards. So people that are familiar will see these little Easter eggs sprinkled in. And so it was just really fun. And I just thought it would be like such a cool thing to explore.
And it works so well. And one of my favorite Easter eggs about the book is that the cover is a tarot card. It has tarot elements to it. So at the Forge, where they're studying this tarot magic, there are so many fun details. They're all sorted into hearths, which is like a dorm. They have these very cool classes. It just made me wish that I could go there. I loved reading those scenes. Why a magic school setting?
I think that magic schools and magic camps or like even guilds like in Shadowhunters are just something we all like got to explore a lot of in middle grade and young adult. But when I got older and my taste changed and matured, I still wanted those coming of age stories and just wanted to follow an older character getting to experience these types of things for the first time. And for me, college was really when I came into my own and discovered myself and my tastes. And so the bit of the Forge's layout is even fashioned after my alma mater. But it just gives the reader like an easy way to learn the magic. It's like if you're actually being sat down and taught in the classes. And that makes it so much fun and makes you want to return to it.
Yeah. Vow and Vengeance, obviously a romantasy, one of the most popular genres out there, my personal favorite. Why did you want to write in this space? And what did you most want to say to readers by writing in this genre?
I come from a fantasy background, so everything I've written has some kind of element of fantasy in it. And I love reading romantasy. They're like some of my absolute favorite books. There's so much tension.
Yeah.
But I just kept noticing that there wasn't a lot of representation or options for like Latina coded characters or bisexual characters or queer characters, let alone brown queer characters. And it seems silly that the most fantastical out there part of a romantasy was representation of people that already exist. So for me,
Yeah.
I wanted to let people see themselves as the heroines of their favorite types of books. But broadly, I hope that readers all look at Rune's journey and connect to this character she's lost her family, she's lost everything, but she continues to pick herself up and keep going and come into her own. And there's found family, and she finds a beautiful love that she connects with deeply. And also in today's times, I would hope to provide a safe place of escape that you can return to again and again and serve as a comfort read.
Yeah, absolutely. And you accomplish all of that. I've read the book 5 times as its editor, and I would read it 5 times more. I'm so excited for everybody to get a chance to pick it up in January. Jaclyn, can I ask one last question, which is if you could wield any tarot card, which would you want to wield and why?
So I think my answer is the Hanged Man, which is like the ability to control time as a busy mom as well. I would love to be able to pause some things and get your sleep or do some writing or just get everything together. The other one that would be close would be the Death card that you can use to travel anywhere in the world. And so it'd be nice to skip the lines at TSA, right?
Yeah, I know. Go to Paris for lunch.
Yeah.
It's so
for
good to
Italy.
see you.
Fantastic. I'm on board with that too. Those cards, they sound perfect. Thank you so much. This was great. And this is the thing that we always hope is going to happen at these events is happening, which is you are getting new readers that I can see already in the chat intending to read the book. So thank you again. All right. Now we are going to turn to Behind Closed Doors, Shain Rose. So the premise of this book is just incredible. I know you're going to talk about it, so I won't say more about it, but there's a very good tagline. Shain Rose is a USA Today and #1 internationally best-selling author of romances with edgy, morally gray heroes who will do quite literally anything for the women they adore. And John I'm Italian and I don't even know if I can say it. Scognamiglio. I got it. Is editor-in-chief at Kensington Publishing Corporation. So I'll ask Shain and John to start their microphones and come on the stage. Do we have you both? Yes. All right. I'm leaving.
Okay. Hi, Shain.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing, John?
I'm good. I'm really excited. I wanted to say thank you to everyone who gave up their Tuesday evening to be here with us. We're going to be talking about Shain's Behind Closed Doors, which is the first of a trilogy. I don't know if you know this, Shain, but when your agent sent me the submission, there were 3 words from her submission letter that just jumped out at me: billionaires, gated community, and suspense. So as soon as I saw those words, I knew I had to read this book, The Partial. And then once I read The Partial, I knew I had to buy this book. So it was so much fun for me presenting this book at our editorial meeting because there are just so many fun elements, dynamic characters, great tropes. How did you come up with the idea for this trilogy? I always love asking my authors about their process because you always get a different answer. It's never the same answer.
Thank you, everybody, for having me first. Thank you, BuzzBooks, for having me. It's really, truly an honor and a privilege. So I have to say that first. Honestly, John, the idea for this trilogy came about as a little bit of a natural progression after writing the Hardy Billionaire series. You know, I love my billionaires and my morally gray heroes, and that's sort of my jam as an author. But Jameson came up as a side character in my last story, and he was a character that would not shut up in my head. He truly wanted his own story. He knew he was going to get it and was such a standout side character that I knew I had to write a story afterwards. I also just loved that it was that gated exclusive community that we had already seen a little bit of. Paradise Grove. Is it really paradise? We don't know. Um, and I really wanted to explore Jameson as the single dad who really needed kind of some help in his life. But also, we knew that he was this intense secret society member. And so I fell in love with him as a side character and knew he had to have his own story. I think some of you may know, but the book kicks off with Mia, Mia Darling is a teacher. She accepted a private academy position over the summer, only to find that there's a school shooting where her and the hero's daughter are targeted. And when Jameson comes to the scene immediately, because his first priority is his daughter, he not only takes his daughter to safety, but he says that Mia has to come with them. And from there, a forced proximity romance ensues. And so it was a lot of fun to write. The characters kind of took the reins as usual.
That's right. And interesting that you say, I did not know that Jameson was a supporting character in one of your earlier novels, because if you remember, after I read this manuscript, I told you how much I loved Archer, who's a supporting character in this book. Every time he was on the page, I mean, he was funny and he was sexy, and he was just, every time he was in a scene of, ooh, it's an Archer scene. And when you were writing the book, did you find that you had to kind of keep control of him so that he kind of wouldn't overtake Jameson as our hero? Because I have to admit, at times I was thinking, Mia, why do you want Jameson when you can have
Archer's right
Archer?
over there, right?
Yeah.
This was not a why choose book. So no, honestly, I love Archer so much. My characters will continue to work with me, and we will see lots more of him in future books. But Archer was such a fun character to write because he became Mia's really good friend. He was also a fierce protector, and he almost was her found family, right? I won't give anything away, but we really see how he stands by her side sometimes. And I think I like to say that most of my side characters do that, and they really jump off the page because I want them to feel real. And a lot of times they do really feel real to me. You would have had to call me, John, and be like, stop it right now, Shain, because I could have written 2 or 3 more chapters of them just hanging. And I think it's fun. I really do love creating that world and those friendships and having that friendship circle. And so, yes, we had to pull Archer back sometimes.
When you write a series, when you go into like the first book, do you kind of know where you're going with books 2 because this is going to be a trilogy? Do you know where you're going to be going with books 2 and 3 before you write the entire trilogy, or does the direction of the first book kind of shadow or kind of underlie what you're going to do in the next installment?
I would like to say I'm very organized and I have it all outlined, but I am a pantser by nature. I just found that my characters really do take the reins and lead me in a direction that the series will go. I do try to rough outline, but I think that's the thing about creativity. It doesn't want to be tamed a lot of the time. And I probably enjoy chaos a little bit too much to allow it to tame me. So I like to allow the characters to go where they want, and I like them to surprise us. I think that Behind Closed Doors does have a lot of twists and turns, and there are suspenseful moments. And I think that's because the characters really did kind of take the reins.
Did you have to do any research for this book? Like, the weapons that the guys used and the way that these different families kind of run things? I mean, were there certain movies you watched or books that you read?
Yes. So part of this idea for a secret society kind of came from the Gentleman TV show. I just love how they did in that show. I will say though, my husband he was special ops military. So a lot of things, like if they were holding the gun a certain way, I really tried to make sure we did that correctly, and I had him reread it. So a lot of research in that sense, where I'm either asking him or his friends certain things. I researched different ways to torture, different ways to kill. And I think there are some of those things that maybe we'll see in later books, but I try to do a lot of research. Sometimes it doesn't always get it, like make it into the book, but I do try to do a lot of research when it comes to even like the secret societies. We know that this secret society is working with other businesses, cartels, the mob. So I wanted to make sure that a lot of that rang true and that readers could understand that. And then when it comes to the heroine, I mean, I really researched the 5 stages of grief. I researched just different sort of teaching methods. So there was a lot of research in there. Although I do want it to be an escape and feel really easy to read, there is research that still goes into it. Yeah.
Well, I know you're rolling up your sleeves to get, this will be our last question. I know you're rolling up your sleeves to get started on the next book, In the Dark. Do you want to drop a few hints as to what readers can expect?
Well, they can expect more torture and killing. No. They can expect sizzle and steam always. You know, you're going to get that in all of my books. You know, you're going to get the possessive billionaire. I love the tension. I love the angst. So you're always going to see that between the characters, and they can expect twists and turns too. These two characters are definitely enemies. There are scenes in this book that will give hints to that and behind closed doors. And then you'll really, really see how they start as enemies and they have to become lovers in the end. So I am excited to share it all with everybody.
Can't wait. Can't wait. Thanks, Shain. This was
Yes,
great.
absolutely.
Thank you so much. I loved hearing about all your research as well and the continuity of your characters. And you've got a lot of new readers I can see in the chat as well. So thank you again. And now we're going to turn back to tennis. This is The Open Era by Edward Schmit, and it is a debut. And Edward, I can't see you yet, but I want to say I think of you not only as an incredible debut author, but as the first subscriber to our newsletter, because somehow you must have literally found our website the very second we turned it on. And that was amazing. So thank you. Really appreciate it. And I can also say how much heart and excitement and tennis is in this book. It's very juicy and a great read. So Edward Schmit is a debut novelist with The Open Era, and with The Open Era combines 3 things close to his heart: queer love stories, mental health awareness, and the most beautiful sport in the world, tennis. And Kristine Swartz is an executive editor at Berkley, and they are here. So I'm going to leave you to it.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Marianne. Hi, Eddie. First, thank you for writing such an amazing book. I'm so excited to be part of your publishing journey and help get The Open Era on shelves. Romance readers are in for such a treat when they get their hands on this. So I've heard you describe this book as epic gay tennis, which, yes, that is exactly what this is. But could you also give a more in-depth overview on The Open Era?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Kristine. Thanks for being here with me today. And thank you to Publishers Marketplace for having me and choosing The Open Era as a buzz book. This is all very exciting and buzzy. Hi, everybody. My name is Edward Schmit. I'm the author of The Open Era. The Open Era is a story about the first openly gay male tennis player to compete in a Grand Slam. His name is Austin Hardy. He is 20 years old. He's recently turned pro. And he came out when he was a freshman in high school, and it was really no big deal. But when he qualifies for the US Open, the largest tennis tournament in the world, his sexuality suddenly becomes a very big deal because he makes history. And all of the media attention turns straight to him. He feels the pressure of being a poster boy and the pressure of competing at the highest level of his life. All of that kind of spirals into making his mental health take a turn for the worse. He has an anxiety attack on a practice court and trips and falls and opens his eyes to a very handsome man named Diego Cruz, who is hot, tennis phenom, probably straight, and world number 2. And Austin and Diego start a friendship, maybe something more. And they find out soon that they are about to go head-to-head at the US Open and stand directly in each other's way at the US Open. It takes place over 2 weeks right here in New York City.
I think I'd be very lucky if every panic attack ended in a very hot man in front of me, but
If
that
only.
has not been my experience.
Yep.
So you and I are also coincidentally neighbors, and I've seen you more than once on your way to Astoria Park to play tennis. Besides a personal interest in the sport, what made you choose tennis as the backdrop of your romance?
Kristine, that was so embarrassing too, because we had like our first Zoom call, and then like maybe 48 hours later, I'm like walking back, and you're like, Eddie, is that you? And like we had no idea we lived next to each other. And I was coming back from literally playing tennis at the grounds of the U.S. Open. I had my backpack on and my racket sticking out, and it's like, we get it, you like tennis. um, but yeah, so that it's so cool to be neighbors. And the personal interest in the sport, beyond that, yeah, I'm currently obsessed. I've been obsessed for the past like 4 years now. And the part about Austin being the first openly gay male tennis player, like that it hasn't happened yet. To compete in a high level at the Grand Slam, we haven't seen that in tennis. We've seen it in almost all of the other professional sports. And for that was my interest, I think, in choosing to write about this, because I started watching tennis because I was obsessed with it. And I started looking for openly gay players to support. And there are many women. I love Billie Jean King. She's a hero to me, but there are no men. And I started to think about why that was. And I couldn't get that out of my head. So I decided to write about it.
That's a great reason to write that. So you already mentioned this a little bit, but a big part of Austin's personal journey is dealing with anxiety and grief and overall mental health. He's under a lot of pressure, as you said, being the first openly gay male tennis player in the U.S. Open. So as an author, did you find any challenges or even benefits in writing and exploring this part of Austin's character?
Austin has an anxiety disorder, and a lot of his symptoms are similar to my own. So in that way, it was pretty easy to put it on the page. It was basically just journaling. So that part was easy, but it's always challenging to be open and honest about how you're feeling and about your mental health. It's important to work through that and share how you're feeling. And that was a pretty challenging part, to just decide that I want to put a piece of me like this out there, but I know that that's important, and it's important to share our stories. And it was great to be able to share that story through Austin. And he definitely goes through it. His journey is imperfect too. He really wants to improve on his mental health, but it's not exactly linear. He makes mistakes. A lot of the times his anxiety is at odds with two things that he wants, which is to win the US Open and also to have this relationship. And like his anxiety makes him spiral a lot and prevents him from, or it's possible to prevent him from achieving those things.
I actually also loved like the variety of ways that his anxiety manifested on the page. One particular way was when he like burps to kind of like cope with it. I have never seen or read that before, but I mean, it was like, oh yeah, I'm sure there's someone who does actually have to do that.
Yeah. Kristine, I'm sure there is.
Yeah, but not you.
Not me.
Not you just don't burp for anxiety. But,
No burp.
no judgment if you do. So to veer slightly off topic, would you like to share a little bit about your nonprofit? I don't mind.
Yeah, I in 2017 I co-founded a mental health campaign with one of my best friends, Chris Wood. It's called I Don't Mind, and our mission is to inspire open and honest conversations about mental health in new and creative ways. And we've been around for 7, 8 years now, and over the years we have put on mental health summits for young people to talk about mental health leadership. We have hosted writing workshops to help people hone their writing skills and inspire them to share their own stories. We have a website where you can find articles on mental health written in relatable ways. It's not so mumbo jumbo mental healthy. It's like really, you're able to hopefully see yourselves in these articles and figure out ways to put yourself on the path of recovery. We also have a popular Ask a Therapist series where we take your questions and we get them answered by real therapists to further destigmatize going to therapy and just being open about how you're feeling. So that's I Don't Mind. And currently I work for Mental Health America, which is the nation's leading mental health nonprofit that's community-based in the nation. And one of our biggest offerings is free mental health screening online. So if you are not sure how you're feeling, if you think something might be up, you can take a mental health screen at mhanational.org/screen and check in with yourself. And you can do that free, confidentially, 24/7.
That's an amazing mission on both fronts. So now let's talk young love. The open era is a new adult romance. Sadly, you and I are no longer considered new adult age, but that doesn't have
What?
to stop us. I know, right? Being in your 30s, you're no longer new adults. But we can still love and appreciate stories that cover that age range. So I'm curious what inspired you to write characters in their early 20s?
I love coming of age books and movies, so I'm just naturally drawn to that. There's something exciting about experiencing things for the first time, and that age, when you're that age, you just feel so much.
Yeah.
And that paired with first love and a fish out of water story at the US Open. This is the biggest moment of Austin's life. It's fun to experience that with him as he's a young person at 20 years old. It's fun for us to read it. It's not fun for him to experience it. But the love part, that's fun.
He has some fun first.
Yeah, for sure. There's fun in there. But yeah, so all of that really drew me to writing new adult. And yeah, I just really wanted it to be a fish out of water story. There are other stories that we've seen or about people older than Austin competing in tennis, but I wanted him to be experiencing this for the very, very first time and seeing it through his eyes there.
One of the things that I really loved when I first read your manuscript was the voice of Austin and how young he was. It felt very, very authentic, but also very relatable. So no matter how old the reader is, I think that they'll see a piece of themselves in the story. For our last question. So in-house, I've described this as Challengers meets Red, White, and Royal Blue. What would your pop culture mood board be to describe the open era? And also, are there any final things you'd like to share about your debut? Speaking of first.
Yeah, I think that when I was pitching this book to agents, I described it as Challengers, for a book for fans of Challengers who wish it was gayer. So it's a lot of the excitement that you find in Challengers and the sexiness you find in Challengers, but it's about two men who are maybe falling in love. And that was a huge piece for me there. Red, White, and Royal Blue is my North Star. I love that book. And I think those are the two pieces of pop culture. And tennis is having a big moment right now, and rightfully so. It's a really, really fun sport to play. It's a fun sport to watch. I was a theater kid growing up, and I did not care one bit about sports. But let me tell you, a few years ago, I fell in love with tennis, and the way that like a match that you think you're going to lose can turn on a dime. The momentum can shift, and it's extremely plot heavy. It's extremely narrative, and it's a great setting for a story. So I hope people really enjoy it. And thank you for having me, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you for
answering
joining
the
us.
questions.
Sorry.
Oh, no, I was
I was going to say thank you so much. And also, I see a reader in the chat saying, I think this might be the start of my tennis era. So we've done
We
something
love a
here.
tennis era.
Come on
And,
over.
yeah. And also, thank you for the depth of your characters and how beautifully you've written them. And so now we have reached the end of the panel. Thank you all for joining us.